Elvira, the Mistress of the Dark. For over 40 years, this ghoulish host has been entertaining us and providing lots of intrigue, humour, and cleavage. Performed by Cassandra Peterson, Elvira started as a TV host, presenting an array of B-movies, where she would become so much more than that, as Elvira would transcend into pop cultural legend, where she would also appear in movies, talk shows, comic books, video games, you name it, Elvira has achieved it. And for one simple reason, we all love her and just can't get enough of this spooky, quirky character. So today we are going to explore 10 things that you didn't know about Elvira. So buckle up as things are about to get ghoulish as we check it out. Number 10. The woman behind Elvira. Elvira is the creation of American actress Cassandra Peterson. Born in Kansas 1951, Peterson already had quite a remarkable life before she would take on the form of the Mistress of the Dark. Her mom and aunt owned a costume shop, and Peterson pretty much grew up in it, and every Halloween she would make sure she got the best costumes, and would often win prizes for her Halloween costumes. She was also into ghoulish horror-themed toys, as opposed to the other girls at that time who were playing with Barbies. Her unique life would continue where, in her teens, she performed in a bar as a drag queen go-go dancer. Upon graduating high school, she became a Las Vegas showgirl, where she would have a sort of date with Elvis Presley, where he also gave her career advice, but Peterson maintains that nothing happened between them as she was underage. I guess back then Las Vegas had underage showgirls, I guess. She was also a background extra in the James Bond movie Diamonds Are Forever. She would then move to Italy and join several rock bands. Her interesting and unique career would continue as she would work for Playboy's modelling agency, as well as starting a musical comedy act called Mama's Boys, of which would do performances at nightclubs and discos. In 1979, she joined an improv comedy group and created a character who Wikipedia describes as a Valley Girl character. And it's believed that this character was sort of an early prototype of Elvira. She would still do some acting too, as also in 1979, she appeared in Happy Days as a burlesque dancer. We then cut to 1981, and Peterson was cast as Ginger Grant in a made-for-TV Gilligan's Island movie. However, she was subsequently removed from the production. Now, if only there was something else she could do. So, before the age of 30, Peterson had advice from Elvis, shared the screen with James Bond, joined 2 Italian rock bands, and became a star of improv comedy. Well, you know, they do say the 70s were pretty crazy times. Number 9. From Fright Night to movie Macabra. From 1969 to 1973, television host Larry Vincent hosted a TV show called Fright Night, where Vincent, as his horror host personality, Sinister Seymour, would introduce low-budget horror and science fiction B-movies. Sadly though, Vincent passed away in 1975. Jump to 1981, and producers of the show wanted to bring the show back, and thus bring in a new host, and they decided to go in the direction of using a female host. The producers turned to Mila Nurmi, who in the 1950s created the iconic horror hostess Vampira, as well as star in Edward's Plan 9 from Outer Space. From 1954 to 1955, Nurmi as Vampira hosted The Vampira Show, which was also a show that presented vintage horror movies. Jump to 1981, and the producers of Fright Night had considered bringing back The Vampira Show, a new version of the show, and asked Nurmi to help create the new series. And although at first she was on board, she eventually dropped out, as she wanted singer-actress Lola Falana to star in the show as Vampira. But the producers had other ideas, so Nurmi was gone, and so the Vampira revival was scrapped, and the show would become Movie Macabra, and the producers were back to square one to find a new actress to host their horror movie show. Number 8. Elvira originally had a different look. Now, it was probably just as well that Peterson was let go of the Gilligan's Island TV movie, as she was now free to find other opportunities. After seeing a casting call for hosting movie Macabra, she auditioned and impressed the producers and got the part, and it was now up to her to create a new, intriguing persona to help the show to leave its mark and generate a fan base. Originally, Peterson's look of Elvira resembled how Sharon Tate looked in the movie The Fearless Vampire Killers, but this look was rejected. So she teamed up with her friend Robert Redding in order to create the look, where they took inspirations from the Ronettes, particularly their hairstyles, and a kabuki makeup book, in which they came up with the large hair and cleavage horror goth look of Elvira, and thus a pop cultural icon was born.
However, legal issues were just around the corner. Oh, yeah. Gotta love those legal issues.
Number 7. Elvira was nearly finished just as she started. So just as Elvira's movie Macabra had started, it very much nearly came to an end, as Mila Nurmi sent out a cease and desist on grounds of copyright infringement. Yeah, remember before how I mentioned that Nurmi had created the character Vampira in the 1950s? Well, she felt that Elvira was a basic rip-off of her creation. Peterson maintained that apart from the black dress and black hair, Elvira was nothing like Vampira. It was in court where it was felt that a breach didn't take place, and that characters being similar or sharing a likeness doesn't entirely mean an idea or product had been blatantly copied. So the judge ruled in Peterson's favour, and Elvira could continue to wish all her viewers unpleasant dreams. Something that I think is hypocritical, and I mean no disrespect, is that Nurmi herself said that she took inspiration from Morticia Addams for her Vampira look. Either way, Elvira was here to stay, and she wasn't going anywhere. Number 6. Elvira for the people. Elvira seemed to really resonate with her audience and then some. She really captured the imaginations of a nation who loved her spooky, risque look and her Valley Girl humour. Elvira really shot into the stratosphere of pop cultural domain, where she was now no longer just a TV host presenting B-movies, but a mainstream legend and icon in her own right, where her talents would now be beyond movie Macabra, where she also featured in TV interviews as well as public appearances. Heck, Elvira was such a horror icon, she even hosted the movie premiere of John Carpenter's The Thing. Elvira would also often be seen hanging out with other celebrities and personalities, like Pee Wee Herman, Alice Cooper, Magic Johnson, Robert Englund, Vincent Price, and Axl Rose. And Peterson would even appear in TV shows as her Elvira character, including Chips, The Fall Guy, and the Super Mario Bros. Super Show.
Yep, it seems that Elvira had become her own successful brand.
Number 5. Fight for your Elvira rights. Now here's an interesting snippet of information I got from an article on the website The Hundreds, where it's described that when the popularity of Elvira's movie Macabra really took off, and thus her value as a performer and the Elvira brand in general would have increased, the producers refused to give Cassandra Peterson a pay rise, despite all the success she was bringing in. So piece by piece, Peterson slowly purchased more rights to the Elvira character, till she totally owned the character outright. And this would also include getting financial earnings of Elvira and other uses of the character. For example, the TV network that produced her show granted Peterson the rights to the Elvira fan club. Okay, well there's a start. And she then asked for the rights of Elvira's public appearances, and they also granted that. Okay, so she was clearly moving up the ladder. And so yeah, piece by piece, she was slowly gaining the full rights to Elvira. Often these disputes between actors and producers over finances usually get ugly and lead to lawsuits. But no, not with Peterson. She slowly took her time, one victory after another, till she finally achieved her just desserts. Good on her. Number 4. Elvira, Mistress of Merchandise. So So with Elvira being a hot brand and in demand, hey, that rhymed, diddly diddly dimed, it naturally meant it was going to be merchandise galore for all Elvira fans to help get their Elvira fix and enjoy certain Elvira products, which led to Elvira perfume, an Elvira pinball machine, Elvira comic books, Elvira trading cards, Elvira records, Elvira video games, and Elvira magazines. And she became a mascot for Coors beers. In fact, the merchandising of Elvira has never stopped. It's still going now, as you can get Elvira pop vinyls. Seriously, I don't get the appeal of these. And Elvira action figures. Lots and lots of action figures, and to be honest, they look pretty awesome. As well as dolls. Once again, lots and lots of dolls. So Elvira is, without a doubt, a successful brand that won't be going anywhere anytime soon. Going back to Wikipedia, when Elvira's movie Macabra was broadcasting The Mad Magician in 3D, the sales of 3D glasses had skyrocketed, with $2 million worth of 99-cent 3D glasses being sold. So either there were lots of fans of The Mad Magician out there, or people really wanted to see Elvira and her assets in 3D. So seeing how Elvira had pretty much conquered everything, where do you go from there? Number 3, Elvira on the big screen. The original run of Elvira's movie Macabra went from 1981 to 1986, consisting of 5 seasons. But now it was time for the character to leave the confines of TV hosting. So originally there was plans to have an Elvira sitcom, but Peterson really wanted a feature movie. So it's here we get to Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, which was released in 1988, which sees Elvira move to a stuck-up snobbish town, who don't have any time for her unique oddball ways, where she must face the wrath of that lady who thinks that Ferris Bueller is a righteous dude. Originally, Peterson wanted Tim Burton to direct the movie, but he couldn't as he was too busy directing Beetlejuice at that time, and Paul Reubens was also to appear in the movie, as Peterson previously appeared in his movie, Pee-wee's Big Adventure. But he also couldn't have anything to do with Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, as he was too busy making Big Top Pee-wee. The movie is a fun horror comedy of that era, and it has gone on to become a cult classic. In fact, the movie was my introduction to the character, and I found her to be lots of fun. And pretty hot. Sadly though, at the time, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, was a box office bomb, only making $5.5 million on its $7.5 million budget. Although Peterson claimed that this is because the movie's distribution company had gone bankrupt the very day before the movie's release of all days, which in turn meant that instead of the movie being shown in 2,500 movie theaters as expected, it could only be shown in a measly 500 theaters. And to add salt to the box office wounds, Peterson would go on to be nominated for a Razzie for Worst Actress. Meh, the Razzies are a really bitchy organisation anyway. To me, I'll always have a soft spot for this movie, and it's dedicated to Peterson's friend, Robert Redding, who as mentioned, helped design the look of Elvira, as he sadly passed away a few years earlier. Number 2, Elvira returns to the big screen. Peterson would still play Elvira in spin-offs and TV specials, as well as a VHS revival series to movie Macabra, called Midnight Madness. However, Elvira would return for her second feature film, Elvira's Haunted Hills, in 2001. Okay, so the movie had a very limited theatrical release, with it being premiered at a Rocky Horror convention, and thereafter it would become a direct-to-video movie. Peterson and her husband at the time funded the movie themselves, and in order to make it, they had to mortgage their home as well as an apartment that they owned. The budget even consisted of donations provided by relatives. Haunted Hills seemed to be better received than Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, as it currently has 69% on Rotten Tomatoes, whereas Mistress of the Dark has 56%. But that movie's audience score is better. Look, either way, I can't really pass comments as I've never seen Haunted Hills, as it didn't really seem to take off here or be a thing. Well, at least in my neck of the woods anyway. Hence, I didn't even really know about this movie till now. And who knows, maybe Elvira's cinematic exploits aren't over yet, and that one day we'll get a third Elvira movie. Number 1. Future and Beyond. The story of Elvira is far from over. Peterson will still often make public appearances as Elvira, as well as TV shows and other medias as her iconic character. And I'm really glad this character is still going, as she looks exactly the same as she did all the way back in the 1980s. In 2021, to celebrate the character's 40th anniversary, she presented a live movie marathon on Shudder, as well as also releasing her memoir at that time called Yours Cruelly, Elvira. I love how Peterson seems to have never gotten tired or weary of the character, or like she's too big for it, and even resentful, as is often the case when actors perform successfully as iconic characters, which kind of overtakes their careers, but in a good way, but not good to some of the performers for some reason. As if they somehow now feel that they're too big for the character and get annoyed with being associated to them, as we've now seen several times. For some reason, they usually do go on to hate and resent them. But Peterson seems to embrace her Elvira persona, and is proud of it, and just as committed to her now as she was back in 1981. In fact, Peterson told Huffington Post, quote, "Whenever you see something that features Elvira, I'm making money off it. That's why when people say to me, don't you feel typecast? Don't you want to stop playing Elvira? I say hell to the no, are you out of your mind?" End quote. So Elvira is a successful enterprise that is still going strong, and Peterson is more than happy to keep the character going. So it really does warm my heart to know that after all this time, Elvira is still going to be wishing me unpleasant dreams.
Yep, Elvira is a true pop cultural icon, a behemoth of Halloween and horror in general. And I do think the 43 years we've now had Elvira is an accomplishment worth celebrating. Anyway, I'm Minty, and at this stage I'm pretty sure that Cassandra Peterson as Elvira is going to outlive us all. Also, I hope you guys haven't taken a shot every time I've said Elvira in this video, or you're going to be needing the ambulance right about now. See ya!